say good evening to everyone. I am Ruby Kelly of the League of Women Voters of Oxford, North Mississippi. And I want to say welcome to all of you to this forum for our school board, Oxford Separate School District School Board. At this time, I want to say thank you for coming, and we're just delighted that you have taken time to do this afternoon. We're excited about our candidates, and at this time, I'm going to introduce our host for the evening. The host has a PhD in educational psychology from the Mississippi State University. She is a retired educator with 34 years of experience in public schools. She has worked as a school psychologist, a fourth grade teacher, director of special education, middle school assistant principal, elementary school principal, assistant superintendent for student services, and a superintendent. She has a deep respect for the citizens of a community who serve as school board members. Presently, she is serving as a co-president of the League of Women Voters of Oxford, North Mississippi, and the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Mississippi. I present to you all this evening as our host, Dr. Ruth O'Dea, who in turn will introduce our moderator, Dr. O'Dea.
Good evening, everybody, and I echo Ruby and her welcome to all of you. Between us, Ruby and I probably have over 60 years of experience in public schools and public education. So we're both very passionate about it. And although we were very interested in looking to all the judge forums that we did, they did take up a lot of time. So we wanted to be sure that we were able to get in something about our school board elections that were coming up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get both of our candidates. Ms. Wilkinson had a conflict. Ms. Reed has changed it around twice in order to be here. So we really do appreciate her participation. I wanted to share some things about public schools. Even though we may only have one candidate, this is here tonight. This is going to give us an opportunity to get out to the community important information about the school board and how it functions and the laws that govern it. Frequently, I think people have misunderstandings about what a school board can do and what they can't do and how they get to be elected or appointed. So I'm excited to have this opportunity to share a few things with you. I do have a few slides that I'd like to show, which means I'm going to have to share my screen, and I'm just going to be very hopeful that everybody can see it. And let's see, let me admit Evelyn here, and then let me start with the slideshow, if I can get it started over here. There it is. And Ruby, you can tell me if everybody can see. Can y'all see, Marion?
It's not yet. Not
okay.
No.
You still can't see it?
Yeah, I cannot see it. Are you sharing?
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I shared it.
We saw it for a moment and then it went down on us.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Okay, let me try again then. Mm-hmm. Sorry, everybody. This is just when you get a lot of people on here.
Mm-hmm. And while she's doing that, let me just say, if you have any questions about candidate once we start the process, please place those in the chat, and then we will recognize your questions. Thank you. And if
can everybody see now? Okay.
Yes, we can see it now.
All right, great. One of the biggest things I wanted to get across to everybody was that the relationship between democracy and public education. And that literally, and I really mean this completely, that public education is a pillar of democracy. It really, things rest on public schools, I believe. Even the founding fathers, when they started, after we had the Constitution and everything got started. They really did believe also that a fledgling democracy was going to need a educated citizenship. You know, if people were going to have power and able to vote and impact their communities, we wanted those people to be educated people. Now, who they call citizens in those days, we know were like white male owners of property. And that has changed, thank goodness, over the years. But still in all, that idea of the pillar of democracy is important to remember. Now, common schools is what things started out being called, and that was Horace Mann, who was one of the first people to begin promoting the idea of having a public schools for everybody, that nobody would have to pay and it would be funded by taxpayers' money. That's what he wanted to see. And he and a lot of others began to see that public schools could be a unifying influence in a community because people from children from all walks of life go there. So that really today is about the only institution left in which all peoples go to usually. And 90% of school-age children in Mississippi go to public schools. And I don't think people really realize that all the time. We have a lot of conflicts and upsetness over charter systems and private schools. But actually in Mississippi, 90% of our kids go to public schools. And actually that's right on the average of the nation as a whole. Also have 90% of school-age children in public schools. So that's as much a reason to support public schools as anything. One of the things I don't think people understand very well is the divided governance of public schools. This is a very interesting way of making decisions and operating school systems. There's a federal role, and it's a small role really in public education. We get funds in public schools at the local level for disadvantaged students, for students with disabilities. And of course, the federal government has a force for equity in our schools, which is very important. But the primary authority of running a school system is the state. They're the ones that make all the laws, all the rules that everybody has to follow, the major ones. The local role of our Board of Education and our school superintendent and staff is the operation of the local schools. So they're the ones in charge of being sure all of that responsibility of the state is carried out at the local level. And you can look at this funding situation. This is just average over the state from 16 to 20. 51% came from the state, 35% came from local, and 14% came from the federal government. But if you begin to look at Oxford School District, you see a whole different picture. And this was last year's budget, and I've added a few things that I found out as well. Local sources of funds for our school system here in Oxford is 48% comes from local. So this is what happens across the state. You can see that there's a lot of inequality in what local school systems are able to provide to their children. And we're so blessed to be in a place, or our children are, that 48% of we can provide that much money. We have state sources is 35%. And then this past year, because of designated funds from the government, 17% came from the federal government. You see, that's a total budget of $65 million, $65,330,000 or so of money that the Board of Education manages and wants to do the best they can for the kids. So then I thought it would be interesting for you to know, how are these board members elected or selected? And we have in our area in Oxford, we have a separate a municipal separate school district. That's Mississippi, a Mississippi thing. Over in Georgia, where I was a superintendent, we didn't have anything like that. It was all county school systems for the most part. But now since 1987, there have been no more of these, allowed or approved. So we have one of the ones that was approved prior to 1987. Here to be qualifications to be a school board member, you have to be a bona fide resident of the school district and a qualified elector, meaning the same stuff anybody would have to do to run for public office. You can't have been convicted of a felony and things like that. The composition of our school board and other municipal separate school districts have 5 members. Each member has a term of 5 years. They're staggered, so one of those positions expires every year, and they're elected by a majority of the governing authority of the municipality, and in our case, the Board of Aldermen. And that's all of them except one that I'll explain in a minute, and that's going to be Ms. Reed. Elected at the first meeting of the governing authority held in the month of February of each year. When I spoke with the mayor, I found that there's nothing written down in alderman world here that lays all this out, but it is part of the law, the uniform school law. And so she just was able to walk me through it, though, to say that sometime in January, usually they will post available position, and then they will take applications and do interviews for whoever they're going to select to fulfill that new term. And that the term begins on the first Saturday of March following that election by the aldermen in the month of February. Now, in situations like ours, where territory outside the municipal limits has been added to the school district, the representative of that territory is elected by those residing in that territory. So that's why Ms. Reed and Ms. Wilkinson are candidates for that open position that Ms. Reed currently holds. Here are the names and terms of the people that are now serving on the school board or board of trustees here in Oxford School District. And you see Ms. Reed's there, and her expiration of her term is in December. Then we have Ms. Betsy Smith, whose term will end in March 3rd, this coming up. So that will be an open position. Carter Myers is the current board chair. He had a 4-year term, but that was because it used to be a district that was like Ms. Reed's, but it was taken in to the regular municipal area. So therefore it became an appointed position. So that's why you have him with a 4-year term. Then you have Denny Tosh, who has a 5-year term and it ends in 25, and Ray Hill, who has a term that ends March 6, 26. So that gives you an idea of who sits on our board of Oxford School District and how they came to be there and how other people will come to be there in the future. Okay, so I thought that would be just some little tidbits of knowledge for you to have now to prime the pump a little bit about what are some of the things you would like to know about the school board and how it operates. And we've got somebody here with us today. We're real lucky too to have a wonderful moderator. And I told her we are dragging her back into public view. This is Ms. Marion Barksdale. I think most of you probably know who she is. She's been active in our community as a great citizen. She's on art council. She's done so many things to make the quality of life in our community better. But for our purposes today, the knowledge she brings to this is that she's been a PTA person. You know, she's been president of PTA here in town. She's been in Atlanta. But then the most important thing would be that she's been the Oxford School District Board member from 2005 until 2018. And she was president of the board from 2010 to 2012. And she's also a parent of high school graduates from Oxford High School, mother of 3, and she's married to Claiborne Barksdale. So welcome, Ms. Marion Barksdale, and I'm going to turn it over to you and let you handle the rest of this.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank Ruth and Ruby and the League of Women Voters for organizing this. As everybody knows, the League does a great job educating folks about elections coming up, issues, and we are very grateful for their organizing this. It's so important for the public to have a chance to meet candidates, to be able to talk about issues, and to have a chance to ask questions of the candidates. So we hope to get to some of that tonight. Here in Oxford and Lafayette County, we're fortunate to have 2 A-rated school districts, and we have citizens who value public education. And I'm so glad that Ruth gave us that background about the purpose of public education and how it contributes to our society. I've long held the view that a healthy community most likely has a healthy school district and vice versa. And I think that Oxford and Lafayette County are testaments to that. We are very, very lucky, and I hope everybody who's listening realizes that. And we have to keep that momentum and stay connected, stay informed. And so that's why all of you are here tonight, I know. So I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in. And now I want to get to Ramona. And I did ask her if it's okay if I called her Ramona, because we have worked together for so many years and have a friendship from those years. So she said yes. We'll be very informal tonight. I wanted to back up 1 minute to talk about, some of you may be wondering why we don't have Lafayette School District candidates also. They do have 2 seats that are up for re-election up for election this cycle, but their 2 candidates are incumbents and they don't have any opposition. So, and this is the only seat that has 2 candidates. So that's why we are doing this tonight. And thank Ramona very much for joining us. Because Ashley Wilkinson wasn't able to be here, Ramona gets the complete limelight. And I have all of her biographical information, but that is part of what she wanted to include in her opening statement. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, if that's okay. And then after that, we'll start with a discussion and some questions. And as everyone has been told, if you have a question, just put it in the chat and we'll try to get to it. All right, Ramona, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your involvement in education?
Sure. Greetings to each of you on this Zoom School Board Forum tonight. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters of Oxford, North Mississippi, for inviting me to be a part of this school board forum. I thank the Oxford, Lafayette, and University community that has taken the time out of their schedules to become more informative before the November the 8th election. Let me just begin by sharing a little information about myself. I've been a resident of Oxford for 40 plus years. I'm the proud parent of 2 successful graduates of Oxford High School, Arissa Jenkins Sims and Kendall Jenkins. I'm also the proud grandmother of 2 smart, handsome boys, Preston and Kaden, my joy. I'm a devoted, committed, and faithful member of New Hope MB Church, where I'm active in several auxiliaries. I retired from the Mississippi State Department of Health, where I was employed as a public health inspector for 36 plus years. for Lafayette County and surrounding areas. I'm an active member of several community organizations such as Oxford Development Association, Oxford Community Development Association, where I serve as secretary for both. I'm a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, where I serve as chaplain. I'm active in the community with volunteering. I believe that volunteerism grants us the opportunity to amplify the voice of the community, the stakeholders we represent. I'm invested in the Oxford School District, as I stated earlier, with having 2 kids successfully graduating. I know the potentials that the school district possesses. Being passionate about academic and career readiness, believing that every child can learn. There's a path for each child to be successful, as our mission states, empowering all students to become confident and career builders of the future. Our portrait of a graduate aligns with my belief, and in a portrait of a graduate is effective communicators, culturally aware, ethical, critical thinkers, creative thinkers, resilient, personally responsible, and active citizens. Students learn in a variety of ways. The reason I'm excited about all expansions of our career and technical programs, that students may be academic and career ready, aligns with our portrait of a graduate. My passion is to ensure that each child in the Oxford School District reaches their full potential, because no child should be left behind. I'm excited about the continuous improvements to the district programs, as I stated, with our career and technical programs, alternative school, continuing to close the achievement gap, recruitment of minority teachers, our early childhood center expansion, AP courses, dual enrollment, and others. There's still resources and avenues to be explored. We are blessed to be in a community where we have Northwest Community College, the university, and Oxford stakeholders. As I stated, this is the reason it is important also to have a diverse board, because all students deserve the best education possible, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, disabilities, and other disparities as defined with equity for all students. There needs to be a voice to understand what the diverse students and stakeholders are encountering. If not, we cannot promote equity with products and services that actually meet their needs. I believe in ensuring that students within the district have adequate and appropriate resources available to meet the need to be successful. That includes to approve a budget, sound judgment, and data. Also, the budget impacts school staffing, improving facilities, professional development, school construction, providing supplies and resources, and above all, drives a focus on academic achievement and the whole child to be college ready, career ready, and life ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona. You touched on a lot of the issues and questions that I had planned to pose to you. So you've laid the groundwork. Thank you so much. As a reminder to everyone, Ramona knows this because it was drilled into us as school board members, but individual school board members have no authority. The board can act only as a body. So as we listen to Ramona's responses tonight and during this discussion, remember that these are her perspective, her personal opinions, and that she is not speaking for the board as a whole.
Right.
And she knows that, and I know that. Now y'all know that. A school board has really limited areas of authority, and these are, they approve policy, they approve a budget and how the money is spent. They hire the superintendent and the school board attorney. They approve the money for the other hires, but they don't make the hiring decisions. And the school board also engages in strategic planning. And all of these 4 pillars are all intertwined and dependent on each other. So we'll try to talk about these areas as we're going through some questions. I want to start with policy, Ramona. In broad terms, how do you approach policy issues? How do you evaluate need, urgency, staff opinions, student opinions, parent opinions? If possible, can you give a few examples of policies that you have worked on in your tenure as a school board member, some that might stand out when you've had to really weigh how to vote?
Well, you have new things that come about sometime and you don't have a policy for it. But the first thing you're going to do is to see if you have a policy for it. And if you have a policy for it, then you may just need to go in and do some revisions to that policy. And every month, as part of our board packet, we get a review of policy. So our policies are reviewed yearly. If there's a need for a new policy, we don't have a policy for it, something comes up, something happened, and we don't have a policy for it, and there's a need for it, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get all of the information together. You're going to get your data, as I stated earlier, you're going to get your data together, you're going to get your needs together. And we as a board, as you stated, that we're going to have a work session or discussion about this before it becomes any policy. We're going to make sure, I guess you could call it maybe our homework, that we've done our homework, because there's much material that's there before you actually make the policy, and then see if we need to make a new policy or if we need to revise a policy at that point. And then if we decide that we need a new policy for this, that we don't have a policy for it, then we will get together with the superintendent. And like I said, there is a board session and a working session and from there, then once we get that policy, then it's going to go out in a board meeting, and then it's going to go out to all of the stakeholders, and it's on our website. It's what we would call our first reading of it, that it would go out, and then we get our comments back from it. And once you get the comments back from it, then you go back, you may have to rework some things, because you want to make sure that you include every person that policy affects, that you want to include them. Their comments, you want to listen to the comments, the data, and all of this before you actually approve that policy. And sometimes it takes up to a third reading before you actually approve that policy. So I can say that it's much research material that goes into when you're making a new policy.
Okay, can you, do you recall any specific examples of, for instance, when you were going to go into a policy vote, say first reading, and you thought you were going to vote one way, and then you listened to either your fellow board members or staff, or reviewed the comments that were submitted, or did additional research that led you to change your vote? Do you have any instances of that where all of this material convinced you to vote a different way?
And sometimes those things do happen. When you go into the board meeting, and I'm always praying before certain situations, that I pray before I go into the board meeting about it if I'm just not comfortable with a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And once you go into that board meeting and you hear the comments, or then you go back, because like I said, you got the first reading of it. And that gives you time to go back, you do some more research on it, you get comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
If that, no, I don't see it. You may see it another way. And that's why I say a lot of times, I say sometimes with being diversity on the board, because I can see it one way. But then if you're listening to the stakeholders and your comments that you get, even from your teachers and from your stakeholders, and you say, well, you know, that's different. You see it in a different, you can see it in a different light,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the way that you were thinking. Because if it's something that's affecting the students or teachers, and I see it one way, but remember, I'm not in the classroom every day.
Mm-hmm.
So they are there in the classroom, they're dealing with the students.
Right.
So it's different. It would be different. They can see it different than I can see it. And then when you're dealing with a different group of students, it's totally different. They may have a different view on it than I have. So you got to look at the whole picture. You just can't look at the way you feel and what you think about it. You got to look at the research, the comment before you, and pray. That's me. Before you make that final decision, that third reading, because you want to be comfortable when you make that third reading, when that third reading come around forward. And sometimes it does go to the third reading.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. What issues do you think are looming that might be coming before the school district board? Or are there any issues that you would like to have addressed that haven't been addressed yet? And these can be local issues that you see, or national issues, or are there any issues that you're thankful have not come before the board?
I can't really write off. I can't think of any right now. I'm excited about the early childhood program that we are having in Oxford. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about all of the career technical programs that we are having. I'm excited about that. And then the courses, and just, I'm excited about, it's something there at the schools for every person. And, you know, some children sometimes that they don't want to come to school, but because of the career technical programs we have and other programs that we have there, it gives them an incentive that they want to come to school. And that's what you want all kids to be excited when they come to school. So whatever it is, you know, even with looking at our sports, the sports part of it, it just amazed me how their GPAs are, the grades overall. Because sometimes when they're playing those sports, then they get excited for coming to school. So knowing that you got to keep your grades up, then you're going to be excited. You're going to want to come to school. To give kids a reason in the school, there should be a teacher, a staff, something that gets them excited about coming to school, wanting to go to school every morning. Not even wanting to go to school most of the time.
We have invested a lot lately in the career tech transition, more away from the Career Tech Center that we share with Lafayette to having them on campus at the high school. And then the pre-K program has expanded so much. So those are definite positives for our school district.
Yes.
I agree.
Like I said, there's always with Northwest, there are still resources there with Northwest, with the university. I mean, there's just still avenues there that we have not explored yet.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
and there are some things, you know, that we are looking at, that Bradley Robinson, our superintendent, that some partnerships there.
Yeah, good.
Just,
Mhm,
you know, from the Oxford community,
mhm.
that we have not tapped into those resources yet.
We do have one question in the chat that is, you can give us a quick answer. This person wants to know how you feel about listening to students and parents about the wearing apparel of boys and girls. I know this has been a big issue lately. Um, and I think you recently approved a policy or a revision of the policy.
Yes, we did. We did. And it's important that you listen to the students,
Mhm.
you listen to the parents, and we had a comment section on that before we approved the last policy. And believe it or not, I read all of those comments. You read all of the, sometimes our stakeholders don't think that we are reading those comments, but as a board member, I read every last one of those comments. And it makes you, you know, like I said, sometimes it makes you think, you put yourselves in a student or parent position in those situations.
Did you find yourself in when you were working on that particular policy, changing your opinion about anything based on the comments?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that, and I won't, I don't want to share them on here, but yeah, there was a couple of items on there. Yeah, because you read, you comments, you think, and you, young people, you put yourselves and you try to, their thinking. And when you're talking about the length of it, yeah, so yeah, and just the way that society has changed.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, is ever changing. So yes.
All right, well, thank you for that. And we're going to move away from that for a little bit. And I wanted to bring up that in 2019, the school district was ranked as the #4 district in the state. But recently, new rankings have us, we continue as an A district, but we are now ranked as number 20 in the state. And I know these are recent results, so that the school district probably has not had time to respond yet. But I wanted to know, what is the district doing about analyzing this information? And what questions do you think the board should be asking of the superintendent and staff based on these new rankings?
Okay, from your first question is that we're going to get this data. And then knowing that our superintendent, and I don't think he'd mind if I call him Bradley, but he's going to analyze that data. We're going to have a work session over all of that. And with you being on the board, you know, we ask, well, how, you know, we look at it individually from each school. What did they do to bring theirs? And then with the pandemic, us just coming out of the pandemic, we have to look at that situation also. Mm-hmm. Do we need more intervention? Do we need more remediation? What is it that we need? Do we need to change the classroom? I mean, you know, have a different, have more teachers, instructors in different programs. Mm-hmm. What is it that we need to do that we can, you know, that we can do better with? So you're going to look at the data, see where you're at with it, see where your weaknesses are, see where we're lacking at. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we will look at what we need to do. We will have a work session on it. Like I said, we will review all of that data. Okay. And then come up with the plan with, like I said, more interventionists, just what is it that we need, you know, to do, because that's what we had to do with our counseling program in high school. What is it that we need? You know, what is it that we need? And then Bradley will bring the recommendations back to us once we have a work session, and then Bradley will bring the recommendations back to us. And okay. I'm sure part of our budget.
Yeah. Right. And I do have a question. Well, I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit about how everything's intertwined. And wanted to ask you about strategic planning because you've mentioned the work sessions, and I know that regularly the school board does engage in strategic planning. How often do you think strategic planning should be do you think it should be undertaken? And how do you apply it to your decision making? How can you explain for the listeners how, and some people say, oh, you make a plan, and a lot of people just shelve it and don't refer to it. What is your experience in that process, and do you utilize the strategic plan?
In our strategic planning that we have, then when we get our board packets in there, it's going to have what part of that plan that applies to that. So we are constantly using that. It's evaluated. I'm going to say that I think maybe on a yearly basis, I think that we get it. We look at it because there is a retreat that we have, or a work session, if you want to call it that, but we're there all day. So those things are on our agenda. And when we get that board package, when we get our board packets, it is something in there about it. What the items that relate to it. If we're going into a new program, or they want to buy a new program, they want to try something new, a school wants to try something new, then you're going to have to tell how that applies to our strategic plan, how it ties into it.
So it's helping you make funding decisions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's always applied to it.
Okay.
Yeah, with new programs, if they want they're trying something new out, then we need to know, how is this going to apply?
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. Real quickly, I'm going to go back and ask a question that's in the chat. How does the board publicize the 3 readings of the policy proposals? And it's usually 2, but sometimes if there is not consensus yet, it might go to a 3rd reading. But so this person wants to know, how does the board publicize the availability of these so that they can make a comment?
It's going to be on our website. It's on our website. And I try to make sure that those things are accessible for all of us, because, I'm not really computer savvy either a lot of times. So I want to make sure that parents can get to it, and all of our stakeholders, not necessarily, but all of our stakeholders can get to that information. So it is always there on our website. And a section where you can make those comments at, it's there on our website. Now at the school, they send it out to if it applies to the teacher, something that's going to affect them, they're going to send it out there. And with the other ones, if it's for the Oxford community, the stakeholders, then it's on our website, and they should be able to make some comments from there. But if they can't and they have a problem with it, they just need to let Bradley know that you can't. And it's hard, if it's hard to to get to, then they just need to let us know that they have a problem getting to it.
And I'll also tell this person who asked this question, just from my experience, I do know that the board, in the board packet every month, the board gets all the comments. They're all compiled and they're all related to that, whatever policy proposal it is. So it's easy for the board to read all the comments.
Yes.
Yeah. The board does not have to go and look on the website and read the comments, but they're compiled.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about hiring and staffing. So as we have said before, the only hires that the school board actually makes are the superintendent, or you approve the funds for the hiring of the staff, but you don't make the decisions about the hiring except for the superintendent and the school board attorney. And I know that the school district has recently been through a superintendent search and made a decision. And so we never know when another superintendent search might come up. You and I have been through a couple together, and you just never know. But it is also the most important hire for a school district. And I would like to know what kinds of things do you look for in a superintendent, and what criteria would you use? What do you personally look for?
You want a match that's for the district. That's what you want. You have to remember as a district, and then you want a match for that district. And that's pretty much, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say, but that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a match with that district, and that's going to cover a whole lot. That's
Do you think that a school district or a school board should engage the community in any way in trying to get an idea of what staff might want, what parents might want, some qualities that the community might think were beneficial in a superintendent?
Sure. It should not just be left up to that board on what they are, what they're looking for. And I know before we did our last superintendent search that we hired a firm, and they did interviews, questionnaires with every group in the Oxford school district. They did some Zoom information. There was some Zoom forums out there, Zoom information out there. They did it on Zoom. And then there was questionnaires also that the public could comment on what they were looking for. It's not just something that we look for as a board. No, we had input from every person, every area that was connected to the Oxford school districts that they would have an impact on. Yes, we did it for all of the teachers, everybody in the school system, and then for the Oxford community had a chance.
So to find that information, like to find the questionnaire, would one need to go to the school district website to find out about the availability of the questionnaire? How are those kinds of things publicized?
I'm trying to think, because the company that we had, they're the ones that did it.
Okay.
I know that they sent it to all of the teachers, all of the employees of the Oxford school district, but how they got it out to the community, because we did get input back. They give every bit of that information. They share that information back with you on all of the community input from it also. I'm trying to think right now how we got that information. How did they compile that information for us? Because like I said, it was a consulting firm that did it for us. And
I'm seeing some questions in the chat about publicizing the availability of opportunities to comment or participate in surveys. There is a suggestion to publicize these opportunities more in the media, radio, newspapers. And I think that some people might not be, checking social media, and I'm guilty of that too. So it's just hard these days, isn't it, to know where to go to get your information, since a lot of people aren't putting stuff in the newspaper because a lot of people aren't reading the newspaper. So it's a challenge, but we might share that information with the school district that folks in the community might not know about these opportunities.
I definitely received that.
Okay.
And I definitely take, because we have a super PR person, I will make sure that I share that information with Bradley.
Okay.
We will
And then there's also one more question related to the superintendent, qualities that you might be looking for in a superintendent, asking if you could be more specific about looking for a good match. If you could come up with any specific qualities that you think might be important in looking for a superintendent for Oxford.
You want somebody that's going to know how to analyze the data. You want a people person, if that would make any sense. You want a people person. You want somebody that's able to analyze the data, that we have somebody that's can get along with the I don't know what my words I want to say for it, but with the Oxford community. You want a teamwork person. That's why I say is when you look at those things, it's just a match, because with Oxford, you want them to have certain qualities that they're able to get along with the stakeholders. A team person is what you want. Somebody, not just an individual that want to do everything on their own. You want somebody that's going to listen, that can get along with all groups, are able to listen to all groups, able to associate with somebody that knows how to analyze data. Of course, you're going to be looking at the things, you're going to be looking at their qualifications as far as a teacher, a principal, their experience. You're going to be looking at those things also. Those things you definitely, you're going to be looking at their experience, their background. You're looking at those things, the experience, their background, what can they bring to the district, what the district is in need of, what, can they, what we're looking at, will they be able to take the district forward?
Okay.
And so those are what you're going to be, what you're looking at. What are their goals? What would their goals be for the district? What would they be able to do for the district? How would they be able to move the district forward? They're thinking.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I wanted to ask a little bit more about the issue of complaints. If people have complaints about staff or complaints about a policy or an incident that happens, how do you handle complaints like that, so that you are listening, but you don't make the decision about the staffing? And how do you go about handling that when different people from the community might come to you with, or a staff member might give you a call? How do you respond?
And that's like so many different scenarios that you can have there. If there's a staff member that's giving me a call about something that's going on at the school, is that what you in reference to?
That's one of the examples that I wanted the community of listeners to know how a board member can or cannot get involved in where to, I'd say different board members draw the line at different places. And what do you think is the appropriate response?
And we have to remember that board members can only make policies, and as you stated earlier, and we hire the superintendent and the attorney. That's it. When it comes to policy, as far as an employee and having a problem, you can listen to what their problem is. But now there is nothing that you can do about it. You cannot act on it yourself. Give them the proper protocol that they need to go through. Mm-hmm. And that would be if a parent had a problem with the teacher, you go to the proper protocol. You go to that teacher. If can't work from there, then you go on up to the principal and those things. And when you come to the board, that's going to be your last resort from it. But no, I'm not going in to talk to a teacher. I'm not doing any. That's because that's not my job. And if there's something that's happening that we need to do a new policy with, we need to revise a policy, then that's gonna come from that principal, from the superintendent. But it's not, the only thing I'm going to do is listen, and I will give you the proper protocol. And that is it. And if we have to act on anything, and if it's something that I think that we're gonna have to act on, or it may come back, I can't talk about, I can't hear you right now.
Yeah.
So, if I think that if it's gonna become a legal matter with hiring, firing, those kind of things, you got terminated, those kind of things, no. I cannot even hear you on that. Let's stop this conversation right now. This is the end of this. These are the protocols that you need.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people everywhere don't really understand. And it's hard to understand that school board members cannot and should not and cannot get involved in those kinds of things. And but direct people who have an issue, direct them, as you say, what is the protocol for getting someone to address this? And so thank you. Let me see. Here's a question. Even though the Board of Aldermen select the majority of the school board members, what would be your personal desire for a fellow member of the school board? Some qualities that you would look for and that you might hope that the Board of Aldermen would look for in a school board member.
As I stated earlier, that you need a diverse board. Because in order to understand, because our school is diverse, so you need a diverse board, and that would be my thing for that would be to make sure that you have a diverse board. And when I say diverse and equity, because those two things, when they intertwine with each other, there's so much that you're looking for. But if everybody come from the same background, then you're not going to understand what another child, you may not understand what a child is going through. Whereas another board member can say, yeah, let's look at it this way, or it's just a different, and we're all in different communities, different settings. Our lives are different. But when you come together, and that's going to be part of my, in my closing remarks, that the board has to collaborate and collaborate as a team with other board members. And so that's what you all bring something different. You bring something different to the table. If we're all bringing the same thing to the table, then we're not really accomplished. What are we accomplishing? But when you bring a diverse group in there, and I understand over here what they're doing, you understand over there what they're doing, you listening to them over there, and I'm listening to them over there, we're representing. Then you come and you can collaborate. You can talk about it and see what the needs are for the whole community. But when you're just in one section, you don't know what my needs are here because you're dealing directly with there. So who's the voice for my needs, my concerns?
Okay, thank you for that answer. Real quickly, I want to turn to facilities and the capital capital outlay. The district has invested millions of primarily local dollars in its facilities with great support from the Oxford community and the taxpayers. How do you ensure that the investment is protected? And what's the board's role in deciding what is needed in terms of capital outlay for facilities? And then how do you make sure it's well maintained?
Well, the first thing before we do any capital improvements, we're going to have a study on it. We're going to have a group consultants that's going to look at our data, because before we decided in building the new school. Then we go for, it was like a 5-year out plan. It wasn't just decided, oh, we need a new school here. Because you look at your data, you look at the births, you look at what your enrollment is going to be in a number of years. So that's one of the things, that's one of the ways that we look at our capital improvement, what we need. We're gonna look at some data. We got 5 years out and we got 10 years out. So you're gonna look at that data. You're gonna see where your enrollment by the births in Lafayette County and all of those things is what we look at. You're gonna look at that for your data. We're gonna make sure our facilities are used for what we tell the public, to the best of our ability. Now, sometimes things change, but it's what we expect it to be used for. As far as our maintenance on it, we're going to make sure that it is, because we, as board members, we go to all of the schools once a year. I think it's like once a year, that we're in every facility that we have, not necessarily just our schools, our athletic facilities, our technology building that we have. We're in those, our wellness center that we have, chargers. So we are in all of those facilities, making sure that they are maintained. We have our, I think it's called Director of Operations. Don't hold me on that one. Colonel Conwell, he's walking right along beside us to make sure that if we need to make any repairs, painting, just whatever we need to make sure of, that is done in the buildings. And we are in all of our facilities at least once a year.
Okay.
We're walking through there. Yes.
That's good for people to know that the board is going and putting an eye on everything. And
yes, and then a lot of times if there's building going on, like at Bramlett, where the classrooms and all, so we got a chance to see them actually, out there working and those kind of things. And if we need to go back sometime, that Bradley wants us to look at something, or I want y'all to look at, see the progress on this. Then we go as a team, we go as a group, as a board, and see the progress on what's happening there. Yes, no, we just doesn't hire somebody, and then we just leave it. No, we're looking at it.
Okay, that's good to know. Good for everybody to hear. Ramona, I looked at the Mississippi Parents Campaign questionnaire that they asked school board candidates to fill out, and I encourage everybody else to go look at your responses. And if you go on that website, it's msparentscampaign.org, and you can click on Oxford and see all of the questions that they asked. So this is still about facilities. I saw that 2 areas of keen interest for you are the pre-K program and the alternative program. So the pre-K program now is at OE. Is that the old OE?
Yes.
Former, okay. So is the plan, can you tell the folks listening what the plan is about expansion of pre-K? Does that facility, will y'all be working on that facility some more? And is the alternative school now, I'm not sure where the alternative school is.
And
Is
that's
that in high school?
No, it's in the old superintendent's office, the
Oh,
administration.
okay. Okay. So are there plans for any work that needs to be done on those facilities?
Yes, for our alternative school, we're looking at revamping that. And I wouldn't want to get ahead of Bradley on any of those things, but I'm looking at revamping that, because we just want our alternative school, and that's one that I'm real passionate about. So we want to just make sure that those students that are there, that they have all the resources that they need to be successful. Just because they're there, we want them to have the same quality teachers there. They're learning to be the same, their experience to be a good experience there, and not just because you at the alternative school mean that you are lacking anything that others are getting and you are not.
Mhm.
That's when I say state of the art, they can have their own, students can have their own cafeteria there, their teachers, those kind of things, classrooms.
Mhm.
So that's my thing with the alternative school, to have a state of the art alternative school, to
And-
revamp alternative school there.
Would you, in a couple of sentences, tell the folks listening, remind them what the alternative school is? Some might not know.
With our alternative school is where we, and most people, when they think of the alternative school, is not really, sometimes you may get grade behind, you just may need that special help, that extra help. And sometimes you can get it individually being in the alternative school. So you may be there for that reason, you may be there for behavior reasons. So it's just an alternative, a form of alternate education for some students. Some students may need that for a while.
Mhm. And it can be it's temporary usually.
Yes,
Right.
it's
Okay.
temporary there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was on the board, we occasionally had discussions about the growth of the district, because we just, have grown quickly. And sometimes it makes us breathless to think about that. But we would sometimes talk about maybe needing a different configuration of schools, because right now every child goes along the same path to every school together. But we talked about the possibility down the road of having, for instance, neighborhood elementary schools that you might come together for middle or high. But we never acted on it. We never thought it was the right time. And I didn't know whether there'd been any discussions about that, or what, if you have any personal opinions about that.
No, we have not had any discussion about that, but we know that's something with Oxford growing as it is, and our schools growing over 4,800 students, that we know eventually that is something that we are going to have to be addressed, because our smaller grades now, where we used to have about 200 or so, and now we're getting 300 plus. And our classes that's coming along are a lot bigger now than what they used to be. And like I said, when we look at our capital improvement, and to look at it from 10 years from now, and those are things that I'm sure that we will have to deal with. Yes.
And so at that, I guess I also would like to know the pros and the cons, but that might be, we may have to save that for another time, because we're getting low on our time. And I'm sure it'll be a community discussion when it comes up.
Yes, we won't just decide that we're going to build a school and we're going to build it. No, there will be much discussion before those things happen. I mean, we will look at the data and see how many years out that we can afford, that we can wait before we have to do something. We're going to take the data with our live births and our students that are coming in, and then what's happening in Oxford, to get our projected growth for the next 5 years, 10 years. So, yes.
All right. My last question was going to be about diversity, but I think you have already given us your thoughts about that. So I don't need to ask, but I do want to just tell the listeners that I did look up the racial makeup of our district, and it's very hard to find online, but I think this is about right. I got it from the U.S. News and World Report site, but we are at about 52% white, 32% Black, 7% Hispanic, 4% Asian, and 5% identifying as 2 or more races. So we are diverse as a district, and that's something for all of us to keep in mind, that we are diverse as a district. And I think we have heard Ramona's thoughts about that in her statements. answering other questions, and then her opening remarks. I think we might have time. I might need Ruth to confirm this and to orchestrate it. If somebody did not put something in the chat but wants to wave their hand with a question, I think either Ruth or Ruby can see you, maybe. Let's see if there are any other questions out there.
Yeah, just put your hand up, your little electronic hand, or turn your video on and wave. However you might want to do it if you would like to ask a question instead of putting it in the chat.
And do you see
I
anybody?
don't see anybody. I don't see anybody waving at us.
Then I think we're at the section of our evening where we will ask Ramona to kind of wrap up for us and give us any closing remarks you'd like to make.
Okay, thank you. As I stated in 2002, my main priority was the students of the Oxford School District. And in 2020, still my main priority is commitment to Oxford School District, academic and successful active citizens upon graduation from Oxford High School, Oxford School District, all students. Being a visionary for our school future, there's always and ever evolving changes and challenges. Although Oxford is rated as an A school district, you can't rest there as a visionary. There's still work to do for all students, such as redefining ready to ensure that our students are college ready, career ready, and life ready. All students, rigor, academic programs, personalized and career-specific learning experience, along with social and emotional skills that prepare them to be global citizens in an ever-changing world, as stated in our Redefining Ready committed to a vision of high expectation for students' achievement. Being a visionary, you need effective board members who contribute their unique talents while collaborating as a team with other board members and superintendent. With students as the ultimate focus, school board members work together to make policies and accomplish the board goals. Being a school board member job is to make well-rounded decisions as it relates to assembling, breaking down, and applying data and making policies that are in the best interest of students and aligns with the district vision, mission, and core values. In my closing, it is with great pleasure and honor that I'm seeking re-election to the Oxford School District Board of Trustees. I would love to continue to be a listening voice for the Oxford community for the concerns and interests of students, teachers, parents, and the community to create stronger ties between the school board and the stakeholders. Again, thank the League of Women Voters of Oxford, North Mississippi, and the Oxford University community for inviting me and listening to me on this night. And I thank you for your comments and your questions and your concerns.
Thank you, Ramona, so much for being available tonight. And I also want to encourage people, if they have further questions for you, they can go on the school district website and get your email address and be in touch if they have any further questions. And Ruth, do we happen to have Ashley Wilkinson's contact info in case they would like to ask her any questions since she wasn't able to join us?
I had asked her for that and a bio and her picture, but she wasn't able to get it to me by tonight. So no, I don't. I wouldn't feel good sharing it without asking, her permission.
Right. Okay. Well, Ramona, thank you so much for being available. And again, I want to thank Ruth and Ruby for putting this together, and the League of Women Voters for providing this community service. And I want to thank all the people who Zoomed with us tonight. And thanks for posting questions.
You guys you beat the attendance of all the judges. So Ms. Reed, more people came here tonight to listen to us about school board than did all the county judges. So I'm not all put together, but for any given evening. So I thank all of you for showing your support for public schools to be here tonight. And I hope that you're taking something away from it that you have learned to encourage your commitment and involvement in the public school system. We have two good ones, systems, and they're worth your involvement and your support. Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Ramona. And hope to see everybody again real soon.
And remember
Bye.
to vote on Tuesday.
Oh, please vote. Ruby,
Vote
anything else you
November
want me
8th.
to say? That's all what Ruby was going to say. Good.
That was exactly what I was
Please.
going to say. Just
Good.
vote. on
If you
November
don't
the
have,
8th.
right, please make a plan to vote. If you don't already know how you're going to do it, before you get off tonight, make your plan. So if you haven't already done it, when are you going to do it and how are you going to do it? So hope to see all of y'all at the polls is what I should have said. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.